Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the retirement ceremony for Master Sergeant Stephen Jensen. Throughout the ceremony, you will be given cues to stand and be seated at the appropriate times. As a reminder, during the national anthem, military members in uniform should stand at attention, and our civilian guests are invited to place their right hand over their heart. At this time, please turn off or silence all cellular phones and other electronic devices for the duration of the ceremony. We will begin in a moment. Thank you. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of Lieutenant Colonel John Picklesheimer, the presiding officer for today's event, welcome to Master Sergeant Stephen Jensen's retirement ceremony. As we retire Master Sergeant Stephen Jensen, we pause today to honor him for 20 years of faithful service to this great nation and the Department of the Air Force. I am First Lieutenant Christine Hansen, and I will be your narrator for today's ceremony. The retirement ceremony is one of the oldest and richest traditions in the military. It is a time-honored event that represents the culmination of a distinguished career in the service to our country. It also pays tribute to the sacrifices and professional excellence of our honoree. Your presence today not only signifies your appreciation for Master Sergeant Jensen's dedication to duty, but also reflects your sincere wishes for a gratifying and rewarding future. Ladies and gentlemen, please stand for the arrival of the official party and remain standing for the posting of the colors by the color guard, followed by the singing of the national anthem by Staff Sergeant John Ralston and the invocation from Reverend John Cresswell Jr. of the Unitarian Universalist Church of Annapolis.
Say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Please be seated. Some preachers talk a long time, so I figured it'd be better if you sat down. I share these words from Nancy Campbell as an invocation, and as well as a few other words I'd like to share this morning. Spirit of kindness and compassion, let us pray. Spirit of kindness and compassion, we come from different places to this sacred place of communal caring. We are enriched by the company of each other and are drawn closer to the heart of love in this time of service. Touch this gathering with tenderness so that we may be refreshed anew by the grace that encompasses this morning. Spirit of mercy, we are human and fragile and often frightened. We pray for the blessing of compassion as we face our frustration and pain. We pray for the blessing of courage to help us live with the fear of losing and the sorrow of loss. And we especially pray for all those among us who need to feel the warmth of love in their lives. Spirit that glows in the darkness, expand our vision with faith so we may always remember the unending cycle of life and death and love reborn that surrounds us with kindness and compassion. Spirit that glistens in the night, bless this community that shares so generously with their hands and their hearts. Keep us ever mindful of the powerful possibilities of love as we walk through all the seasons of our lives. Amen. It is good to be here today. I also offer a blessing at this time for the food that you may consume late now or later, to remind you to be mindful of all that you eat, speak, and say, and do. May it be so. To the officers here and to the NCOs and all the soldiers in this place, it's good to be here. I greet you in the name of life and love. I'm Reverend John Cresswell, and I serve as the minister for Stephen and their family at the Unitarian Universalist Church in Annapolis. And I'm so honored that they asked me to come this morning for this retirement celebration for such a young man and this great accomplishment. Stephen, congratulations on the job well done. 20 years doing anything is difficult, and you have persevered. Well done, good and faithful servant. The Jensen family, they've become dear friends in a very short period of time. Sharon and Stephen are just really good, solid people. And I don't make very many friends these days. I like to tell people that I'm not taking any friend requests. But we got a chance to spend time together, my wife and Sharon, and I really felt like, having seen Stephen at church and asked him several times if he was Tom Hanks' son. He assured me he wasn't. Having met them, I realized that they were just these really incredible people, and that I wanted to be friends with them and their family. And to Lily and Henry, I wrote something here for you. You guys are really lucky. You got lucky in the parent draft, and I think you know that. You got two of the best. So take this moment with your father and remember it. This is really an accomplishment, a big accomplishment that we don't always get to live to see how much we're appreciated. So this is a really important day for you guys. Your dad and your mom are giving you an example of dedication and hard work and what that means when you commit yourself to something, including their relationship. And so you've earned this. Blessings to you. Enjoy this day as long as you can. My wife and I were going to miss you when you moved to upstate New York. I know your family is going to be happy to see you, but we're going to miss you. We feel like we'll see you again. We'll get to do something some other day and time in the future. Hopefully it won't be our last date, which was a mystery dinner, because I hate those. But it worked out fine. But I'm just kidding. That's an inside joke, by the way. So this is not a goodbye, but this is a see you later. I do wish we had more time. But I pray rich blessings upon the Jensen family, that the universe will conspire in your favor and continue to bless your love, commitment, and service to this great country of ours. Blessings on your retirement, Stephen. I leave you with one more blessing. Words from Andre Moll, who wrote this blessing during a very difficult time in World War II to honor the life-saving work of people who took huge risks to save people from the Nazis, because that's what heroes and soldiers do. I leave you with these words: all that we share is sacred. As we gather together, may we remember, when you share with me what is most important to you, that is where listening begins. When I show you that I hear you, when I say your life matters, that is where compassion begins. When I open the door to greet you, that is where hospitality begins. When I venture out to bring you shelter, that is where love begins. When I risk my comfort to ease your suffering, when I act against hatred, violence, and injustice, that is where courage begins. When we experience the full presence of each other because of our shared humanity, because of our differences, that is where holy gratitude begins. May this space be a table that is not complete until all are welcome. May this table be a space of beauty where together we create a series of miracles and where all that we share is sacred. May it be so. Blessing on this occasion. Blessing to you, Stephen, and your family. May it be so. In the name of all that is holy and good. Amen.
Thank you, Staff Sergeant Ralston and Reverend Cresswell. Today we honor Master Sergeant Stephen Jensen, retiring with over 20 years of faithful and dedicated service to our nation. At this time, we would like to extend a special welcome to Sergeant Jensen's family. Joining us today, his wife Sharon, his daughter Lillian, his son Henry. We would also like to welcome our distinguished guests. Please hold your applause until all names are read. Master Sergeant Jensen's mother, Nancy, his sister, Karen Dupuis, and her children, Jacob and Grace. Mrs. Jensen's parents, Harry and Beverly Lyons, and Chief Master Sergeant Stephen Blazer. Unfortunately, time does not allow us to introduce everyone, but we extend a warm welcome to all commanders, chiefs, superintendents, first sergeants, friends, and dragons who have taken time out of their day to show their appreciation for Master Sergeant Jensen. Lieutenant Colonel Moore and Sergeant Jensen, would you please come forward? Ladies and gentlemen, please stand as Lieutenant Colonel Moore, Director of Operations, 315th Cyberspace Operations Squadron, presents Master Sergeant Jensen with his retirement decoration.
Publishing orders.
Attention to orders. Citation to accompany the award of the Meritorious Service Medal, 1st Oak Leaf Cluster, during the period of 7 August 2016 to 31 August 2019. Master Sergeant Stephen E. Jensen distinguished himself in the performance of outstanding service to the United States as Mission Support Superintendent, 315th Cyber Operations Squadron, 67th Cyberspace Operations Group, 67th Cyberspace Wing, Air Combat Command, Fort George G. Meade, Maryland. During this period, Sergeant Jensen's exceptional leadership skills were instrumental to the execution of the United States Cyber Command's Cyber National Mission Force operations. Handpicked to create a unified mission support directorate, he worked tirelessly to ensure a seamless consolidation of administrative responsibilities, maximizing the operational capability of the 107 members in the unit and its detachment. Additionally, Sergeant Jensen excelled as the squadron's self-assessment program manager, where he skillfully guided 35 managers, overseeing 41 separate programs in their preparation for the 67th Cyberspace Wing Unit Effectiveness Inspection. His outstanding leadership culminated in the selection of 11 squadron superior performers and an overall effective rating. Finally, Sergeant Jensen masterfully oversaw the execution of a $2.9 million training budget that drove force readiness for 49 airmen across 3 flights. His resourceful and timely delivery of trained personnel enabled 6 national cyber teams to conduct over 2,000 United States Cyber Command operations, in defense of the nation. The singularly distinctive accomplishments of Sergeant Jensen culminate a distinguished career in the service of his country and reflect great credit upon himself and the United States Air Force. Given under my hand, Monty L. Canode, Colonel, United States Air Force, Commander, 67th Cyberspace Operations Group.
Please be seated. All right, I'm going to take this opportunity to say a few words. Lieutenant Colonel Picklesheimer is going to have a lot more to say about Sergeant Jensen, but Sergeant Jensen, I just want to say from the unit, thank you for all you've done. You've been an outstanding senior NCO for us. For me personally, you have been the expert that I've gone to, the thumper when I need it, the advisor on some of those big decisions that we have to make, and where I don't have all the answers, and it's been very good to have you by my side to help me with those things. I'd also like to thank you for all the other things that you've done for the squadron. He's usually our national anthem singer. You've been a morale booster for the unit. Did an excellent job at the Christmas party. All these things that we see you doing for the squadron. We're going to miss you when you're gone. Thank you for everything you've done. And I would like to salute you on your way out.
Thank you, Lieutenant Colonel Moore. At this time, we would like to introduce the presiding officer for today's ceremony, Lieutenant Colonel John Picklesheimer. Colonel Picklesheimer is the Special Assistant for Senior Officer Matters to the United States Air Force Chief Information Officer and Director for Information Dominance. Ladies and gentlemen, Lieutenant Colonel Picklesheimer.
Welcome. It's my privilege to be here and honoring 20 years of service. So these things are kind of like a wedding, right? You know, lots and lots of planning, lots and lots of people, all the coordination, hustle and bustling in the morning, getting ready, getting the kids ready, getting people on base, driving 3 hours from Langland. Thank you, Chief. It's good to see you. Most of you probably already been in the office for a few hours a day, knocking some stuff out. So what I want you to do is I want you to take a breath. Look around the room. Look at all the faces. You too. And we can enjoy this because kind of like a wedding, you get in the limo and you're like, whew, what did I just do? What happened? And so it's good to take a moment to think about that before we do that. So kind of like a wedding, right? So it's a lot of harmony inside of a marriage, right? And so doing that, lasting 20 years in the military and married is a big deal, right? That is a big deal. And I say the word harmony because you have to, it's a give and take, right? It's between your schedule and your career, and your schedule and your career, and your music and your talents and your art and school. Like there's a lot going on that you have to make work when you're PCSing and moving and finding different schools. And so that harmony is a huge deal. And so thank you very much for making that work for this long. Michelle and I joke, one time you quip like, oh, I could be a better military spouse. I'm telling you what, if we heard that, if we had a nickel for every time we heard that, like we'd be retired on the beach. But it's spouses like you that make all this work, and so thank you very much. But that doesn't happen by accident, right? So that is all of that is built on character and resilience. And where's that? And that usually comes from, at least from my experience, the way somebody's grown up. And so that comes from Mom Nancy. Thank you very much. Thank you for sharing your son with us for 20 years and allowing us to give him back, at least in general, one piece. He's still in pretty good shape. He's got a lot of mileage left in him. So thank you very much, right? But so these two are high school sweethearts, and so Mr. and Mrs. Lyons, they've known him since he was like 16 years old, eating off the dinner table. And so, what's that?
He used his utensils.
I didn't just eat it off the table. There were places involved.
He at least had one utensil's hand, right? That's good. That's great. He's refined. That's a little more refined. So thank you very much. And I know it's tough. when people go away, right? So Wright-Patterson, first duty station, not very far away. Gaunkirchen, that's a long trip, and that's a lot of distance. And so thank you very much for being a part of that. It's just as hard on you as it is as other people, and thank you very much for being a part of that and supporting them as well for the last 20 years. So, talk about Wright-Patterson. So I always like to read a bullet off of the first EPR.
Oh boy.
Yeah. So I did find something interesting right here. So it says achieved 91% on career development course exam. I feel like that's an omen. 91% really?
Yes,
Yeah, I feel like that's an omen, right? There's an omen there. But the bullet that I liked is demonstrates sound, mature judgment with ability to see through problems and provide fruitful solutions. And usually you can find a bullet in a first EPR and OPR that really does capture that character and passes it through there. And so starting with that, and you can look through the entire career, and you can see places where he goes above and beyond every place he's at. And I really realized this. I get two places actually. So one, the 91st Christmas party that we had a couple years ago, where we had a lip sync battle. It was fantastic, right? So Michelle and I, we do a song from Frozen. We do Fair. We got third place. There was three groups, but we got third place. There was another group. They did Uptown Funk. They did a fantastic job. They killed it. And Wandy and Sergeant Jensen happened to do Love Shack by the B-52s, and he was not the dude. Right? So like the wig, the shoes, like the whole nine. I mean, he's going all out on this thing, right? And just about that time, the wing and the group chief walk in. They're looking at me like, what have you got going on here? Yeah. So above and beyond, right? And so
Over the top.
over the top, and I love it, right? But he's willing to give it all and do whatever it takes to get that mission done. So, and again, we see that all throughout, right? So little pieces of that. So Wright-Patterson Air Force Base at what's now called NASIC, and so at NASIC is where we gather all of the intelligence that comes in from the Air Force. We're trying to figure out what our adversaries are doing, what our near peers are doing. And in 1999, 2000, that stuff is kept on, kind of older servers now, tapes, laser discs. I mean, it's kind of a hassle to kind of keep all that running. It's kind of that between the industrial and the digital age. So it's a big job to handle that and get that all going. But there's also, typically cooling issues, right? And so you can kind of see what's going on, and people, when things start going wrong, some people scatter and some people hang out, and they figure out what's going on and they stay with it. So in there you see Sergeant Jensen, at the time Airman Jensen, he's the server room gets too hot, he's there, he's staying for as long as that gets done, right? And you see that kind of over and over again inside of that career. So now, again, we get married at Wright-Patterson, and then off to Germany, right? So, because these careers, right, they, 20 years in blinking of eye, right? Yes. I'm 21 years old, and Michelle and I've been doing this for like 17 years. You're still 19 and 20-something, right? 17, 10, and you're like, how did I get here? We do stuff like send you to Germany and hook you, right? So I'm doing a little personnel work, and so I see how this works. But it's good. But it's also that you kind of get into it and you decide you want to serve, and now we go to Germany, and we see him over there, and this is where he starts hitting that senior airman to sergeant. And as you know, most of the people in the room, that between those two ranks, you have to go to professional military education, and we call it Airman Leadership School. So he goes there and he does a fantastic job. In fact, he's the John Levitow Award winner for ALS, which is the top 1% of that. And so significant to us is John Levitow is the youngest Medal of Honor recipient in the Air Force as an airman. And part of his story is he is a loadmaster on a C-47 Spooky gunship. And as a loadmaster, his job is to take a flare, it's about 3 feet long and 35 pounds or so, and he's supposed to set the timer, and then he hands it to the gunner with the safety pin on, and the gunner pulls the pin and chucks it out the back, and that's how they illuminate the battlefield. That's what they're doing. That's what these guys are doing. Well, they're under heavy fire, and the aircraft gets jarred, and the gunner drops the flare, the pin comes out, and they're under heavy fire, and everybody's wounded, and John Levitow jumps on it, rolls over, and throws it out the back, still wounded. So that's the award that he wins in this place. And we don't, hopefully we don't expect people to do that. We do. We don't want anybody to have to do that, but we want them to understand that that's the level of dedication required. And so being a Levitou award winner is not just an academic feat or an individual feat. It's how you work as a team and how you make your team better. And that's what really is that Levitou award winner. So that's the kind of thing, going above and beyond, that's the kind of airman that Sergeant Jensen is. So in Grand Kirch, he's there for a couple years. It's good, doing NATO work, nice. Doing the wine and cheese tour. It's before the kids are born, right? But along comes Lillian, right? Excellent. All right, and then we're back to the East Coast, back to Langley Air Force Base where Chief Blaze is at. He's at the 83rd NOS, which some of us loathe, some of us love it. It doesn't matter if you like them or love them. They're touching everything that's on the Air Force network that we use every day, whether you're moving cargo, whether you're delivering munitions, whether you're working on a business system. The 83rd NOS is touching it, right? And so he's got a young kid at home. He's got one on the way. Henry's born there shortly thereafter. But the things that I read in there is he's going above and beyond, right? So he's in there, and he's the on-call guy, right? So there's 900 ways you got to be in the on-call guy, but he's the on-call guy, which means that he's called in a lot because the 83rd NOS breaks a lot. And they did back then just like they do now. So he's the on-call guy. Am I wrong? Am I wrong? Okay. So he's the on-call guy, and he's the guy getting called in every single time for these different things. But he's not just doing that, he's also on the base honor guard at the time, starts singing the national anthem for things, like we talked about here. So we expect that airmen are going to the JOB. You don't become a master sergeant without doing your job, right? It's those things that go above and beyond that we expect airmen to do, and that he has proven over and over again. So the good thing about the military, and I think really why people stay, 20 plus years, is you can do a lot of different things, right? You can evolve yourself, you can become a different person, you can find what you're really passionate about. There's lots of places to go do that. And so he's been a server technician, and now he's a boundary protection guy, and then as he's inside the 83rd, he starts to transition, and we're kind of starting to transition inside the cyberspace domain a little bit. So we're doing all of the service delivery, we're providing communication paths around the world, and now we're really starting to get in how we're actually realizing that we need to do defense and actually start doing more of the offensive piece as well. So he's starting to move into that, and he starts working for now Chief Cochran, and retired, and he's doing the weapons and tactics piece, and this is where he crosses over to being a 1 Bravo. So not just doing the server administration, working on the communication paths, but as well as now he is starting to defend and do offense inside that cyberspace domain. So comes over to be a demon chaser in the 91st Selectively Manned Unit. They don't let everybody in.
Nope,
Right?
as far as I know.
So far, still we're still holding the line. So they don't let anybody in. But Cochran brings him in, and so now he's inside the 91st doing that kind of work. So it's who's I need you. So if I start, because now we might get in the classified area, right? So if I start slipping into the classified area, I need you to give me a discrete signal like, who? Can you say that? Sure. Say it, man. What do you? All right, very good. All right, so if I start slipping in, you let me know. All right. So we get to the 91st, and multiple different missions, but really what we're doing is downrange, support to downrange men and women in combat. Probably one of the most important missions, at the time Sergeant Jensen was there, is support to counter IEDs. So you remember, years ago, we were talking about the IEDs, that roadside bombs that blow up convoys and things like that. So operating a capability that allows convoys to drive by safely. Huge job, right? And it's not a job that you can take lightly. Sometimes, you're on that console for upwards from anywhere from 4 to 15 hours, making sure that capability is in place to do that. And so there's a lot of, it's not really physical, but there's a lot of mental toughness that goes into doing that kind of job. And the Dragons here in the 315th, they can tell you a lot about that kind of work where it's a very intense kind of work. It's a very mindful kind of work. It takes a lot of more mental fortitude to do these kinds of jobs. And so he did it very, very well. And again, above and beyond, right? So he was also my additional duty first sergeant, which is terrible, by the way, being the additional duty, because you got all the responsibility. You did a great job. You did a great job. But I'm saying the job is tough, right? Because you're the first sergeant, you have all the responsibility, and everybody's yelling at you, but you don't actually have the diamond, and you don't get the extra $50 a month, right? So but he's doing that job, doing a fantastic job. He's also working exercises, which is sometimes the bane of our existence, but I love these exercises because that's the crucible where we truly learn without actually getting shot at, right? So you can build an environment, you can build a place where people can learn in a stressful environment, but everybody's still good on the backside. And so for the first time, the Demon Chasers, we take an offensive capability out to Nellis, out to Las Vegas at Red Flag, and I take Sergeant Jensen as part of my white team. And so, it's kind of standard, right? So red on blue, blue guys are good guys, red is the bad guys. But then there's the white force that kind of controls everything and making sure that the exercise goes correctly and we apply the right amount of pressure to the right people and let up over here and make sure the effects look right. And you not only have to understand your capability, you have to understand multiple capabilities, you have to understand how the exercise works, and you have to really understand how these scenarios go down. So again, that above and beyond piece, not just doing the job, but making sure that everybody else understands how to do their job as well. And so this is that second place where I really understood where he would go above and beyond for that. So, Blue Force, it's a midnight kind of exercise, right? You start at like 5 o'clock at night, you get done at, debriefing at, maybe 3 in the morning or so. And so by 4 o'clock, you're at Buffalo Wild Wings eating wings and drinking beer. But not if you're White Force, right? So if you're White Force, you are still in the vault and you are figuring out what happened today and you're planning for tomorrow. And so that's where Sergeant Jensen and I are making sure that things are going to go well for the next day. So that's that kind of piece there. And so I thought it went pretty well.
That was great.
I thought it was fantastic, yeah. But not only that, right? But you got a lot of people. We had 16 people in Las Vegas, and they all came back. It was fantastic. There was no paperwork. None. Bonus, right? So kind of that first sergeant duty, we kept everybody in. And so then he transitions to the 315th, and he's down here with Sergeant Guerin, and I'm going to get Sergeant Guerin to come up and talk about being an enlisted man in the Dragons and telling us about a 20-year career.
Thanks, sir.
Absolutely.
That's good.
Great, Fred. How are you?
So, good.